fitting books in the thumbnail is always very difficult. Ah! Okay. No! Hi guys and welcome to Fandom Newbie. My name is Shruti and today's video is a book haul video. Now I haven't done a haul in quite some time and I'm really excited to show you guys all the books that I have acquired. Now I have bought these books over the course of a few months, so you might have actually already seen some of the books on my bookshelf. I'm not really sure, but these are books that I've bought over the past like 2 or 3 months, I think. And the reason for that is because books in Singapore are extremely expensive. So I don't really go and buy like books in bulk. So I can't just go and buy like 15 books at one time because that is just way too much money to spend all in one go. So I tend to buy books, like a few books here and there. So 2 or 3 books at a time every time I visit the bookstore, or even if I order books online. So that's why it's taken me a few months to accumulate enough books to show you guys, but yeah, I'm excited to jump into this video, so let's just get into it. The first book that I want to show you guys is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I finally know how to pronounce his name. If you guys have been on my channel for a while, you know that I don't really like The Silent Patient. I found it quite predictable. But people who have not liked The Silent Patient have still found this book to be really entertaining, and they've also found the dark academia vibe of this book to be quite like gripping and engaging. And basically I've heard that like you can't put this book down. I hope it is less predictable than The Silent Patient, and I hope that some aspects of Alex Michaelides' writing has improved in this book. So I'm just intrigued by this book and I really want to read it because it has been hyped up. Speaking of dark academia, the next book that I want to talk about is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Now, what this book is about is that basically it follows a group of theater actors, and basically these actors put on plays. And what happens is that the rivalries that the characters have kind of creeps into the real lives of these actors who are putting on the play. And one of the actors actually ends up dead, and because all of these actors are kind of against each other, they're fighting each other, they are basically the prime suspect, so they all have to kind of work together to prove their innocence. So that's kind of what this book is about, and it just seems very interesting. It just seems very dark. I love a good dark atmospheric thriller, and that's what I've heard about this book. So again, I'm very excited to check this one out as well. The next 2 books that I bought are The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue and The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. And I've just heard so much about these 2 books. Basically, if you're a fan of historical fiction and if you're a fan of Jane Austen's like era of storytelling, then you'll really enjoy these books. Also, the first book I know is based on a queer romance, which I think is very interesting to read about, especially in the 1800s England era when everything was supposed to be about propriety and just like you wouldn't really expect a queer romance to take place in that era or be written about it. So I find that very, very interesting to read about. And the second one also is supposed to be very feminist, where the character is very outspoken. She wants to lead her life the way she wants to. She's not like, you know, stuck within the confines of how ladies should be during that time, and that also sounds very, very interesting. I always love extremely independent, fierce female protagonists, and having them be in a setting which is supposed to be very like patriarchal and archaic. It's always nice to see that juxtaposition. So yeah, I've heard extremely good things about these books and I cannot wait to read them. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear my husband outside. He's actually on a Zoom call or whatever, so if you hear some like sounds, it's my husband who's talking outside. I'm sorry if he's very loud. But anyway, the next book that I want to talk about is A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. Now this is the second book after An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which I have spoken about a few times on this channel. It is one of the best books that I have read this year and I absolutely loved it, and this is basically the sequel. So that book, like I've mentioned multiple times on my channel, follows our main character April, who discovers this like statue kind of thing in New York City, and because she's very intrigued by the statue, she makes a YouTube video about it with her friend. trend, and then that video basically goes viral overnight and she becomes an overnight internet sensation. And the reason why that video goes viral is because that statue that she sees in New York City has not just appeared in New York City, but it's appeared everywhere, like in every major city in the world. And basically the story follows how this rise to internet fame impacts April's life, how it impacts her self-confidence, her relationships, and every single aspect of her life. So it really is kind of like a social commentary on internet and fame and fandoms and how all of this affects our life. But there's also a slight like science fiction element to it, and that book kind of leaves off on a cliffhanger. So this book, I'm guessing, picks up where the first book left off. So I'm really excited to see what happens next. Hank Green's writing is absolutely amazing. It is so engaging, it is so witty, it is so sarcastic and funny. And yeah, I cannot wait to read this as well. The next book that I want to talk about is Death Note by Sugumi Oba. Now, I've mentioned multiple times on my channel that I want to start reading manga. In fact, there was one vlog that I did, the bookstore vlog, where I went specifically to buy this, and it wasn't available at the bookstore at that time. If you guys want to check out that vlog, I will leave it linked up here. You guys can check it out. But I finally got my hands on the first 2 editions of Death Note, and I cannot wait to read it. Basically, what this book is about is that there is a student, I don't know if he's a high school or college student, but he's a student named Light, and he discovers a notebook in which whoever name is written in that notebook, that person ends up dead. And now basically the student wants to use the power of that notebook to rid the world of all evil. So I'm guessing he's going to like start killing people who are like evil, so like serial killers, etc. This is just like my assumption. I have no idea what this book is about, but it sounds kind of like a manga version of Dexter. Sounds like that, but it's very, very intriguing. The artwork is also really like it's really captivating and dark and creepy and spooky, and I am just really excited to read this because again, I've heard wonderful things about it from some of you guys also who have commented on my video. That Death Note is a great place to start if you want to start reading mangas. The next book that I got is Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. Now, this book I bought specifically because it is an Indian fantasy story that is not mythological. And this one is supposed to be a fantasy story set in medieval times in India, and I have a feeling that it is set in its own world. Like, I don't think that it is actually set in like medieval India. I think it's set in a world that is inspired by medieval India, if I am not mistaken. So that's what makes it even more interesting. It sounds very similar to Hunted by the Sky, which again, I have not read. There are so many books that have been on my TBR that I haven't read. But the other reason why I picked it up is because it has these quotes by authors that I absolutely love. So S.A. Chakraborty, who's written the Devabad trilogy, which I love, said that this is a stunning and enthralling debut. And then there's also R.F. Kuang, who wrote The Poppy War, who also said it is darkly intricate, devastating, and utterly original. So if 2 of my very, very favorite authors have said good things about this book, then I don't know, it just intrigued me even more to read this. I'm excited to jump into an Indian fantasy which is not about the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, basically. The next 3 books that I got are actually all non-fiction books. I've been trying to read more non-fiction these days and it's been going quite okay. I mean, I don't enjoy it a lot, but it has been quite an enlightening and interesting experience, and I definitely want to like expand my reading horizon, so I have been reading more non-fiction these days. The first one out of these 3 is called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Now, I saw this book, I think either in Helly's video or it was Achal from Libro Review, in her video, I think. And they said that this was a great book for, a great non-fiction book for beginners. And especially like if you want to learn about leadership as well as, you know, the like for you to find out why you want to start something, or like for you to find kind of your passion or discover your reason why you're doing something. If you want to learn about that, then this is a really good place to start. I don't know, a lot has been said about this book and it is highly, highly recommended, so I thought it would be good to check out and read. The next one is Be Who You Want by Christian Jarrett. Now, this one is based on the thing that a lot of us just say that this is who we are. So like, if someone criticizes you in something that you did, you always retort by saying, but this is who I am. This is who I am and this is who I will always be. I won't be able to change. And this book basically challenges that notion, saying that you can kind of mold your personality, you can change your personality traits to better suit your circumstances, so that you don't have to be very rigid when it comes to doing certain things, so that, I don't know, you work better in a team, or you work better with your colleagues, or you become a better boss, or you deal better with clients. Because if you're very rigid in the way you think and the way you behave, and you don't adapt and change your personality, even for that matter, if you're like an introvert or an extrovert and you cannot change your ways according to the culture in which you're in, then it can be detrimental to your career as well as your interpersonal relationships with your colleagues or things like that. So this book deals with that, and it tells you how you can change your personality to better suit the conditions in which you are working in. So yeah, that also sounds interesting, so that's why I picked this up. And the next book is The Psychopath Test by Jon Ronson. Now, this book just sounded very, very interesting. I absolutely love true crime shows. I love watching true crime documentaries as well as TV shows based on like past serial killers and things like that. So this book basically dives into the minds of these psychopaths and kind of studies like their traits and what makes people behave this way. I started reading this already actually. I'm a few chapters in, and Jon Ronson's writing style is very like quirky and funny. So it's actually quite an easy read and it's super interesting. So yeah, I cannot wait to finish this one. The next book is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Now, I mentioned this book in my 21 books I want to read in 2021. If you guys haven't watched that video, I'll link it up here so you guys can check it out. But I have been wanting to read this book for so long. This book is a historical fiction book set during the time of World War II in Europe, and it is set in France. And I think it follows the lives of two sisters who are affected by the war or who get separated or something like that. But I've heard that this book is beautifully, beautifully written. And honestly, any book set during the time of World War II is, I mean, like that period, I feel just had so many stories that can be told. And I just love a lot of books that are like historical fiction books that are set during that era. So yes, I cannot wait to dive into this. It's been on my TBR for way too long, so I just have to get to it soon. The next book is China Room by Sanjeev Sahota. Now, this book was longlisted for the Booker Prize this year, and that's how I got to know about it, because I watched Smriti's video where she spoke about the long list, and this just seemed very interesting out of all of the books that were longlisted for the Booker, because honestly, I don't really like to read books that have been longlisted, shortlisted for all of these prizes, because I just feel like a lot of them are not accessible, and a lot of them just like, I don't know, I generally don't seem to like them for some reason. But this one just sounded very, very interesting. It basically follows the story of this young bride named Meher from Punjab, and it's set in the year 1929. She and her sisters get married to 3 brothers, but I think the way that marriages worked is that you didn't really see your husband at the time of the wedding, and then I guess women are like secluded away from their husbands after they get married, so you don't really know the identity of your husband. So I think it follows Meher as she's trying to discover who the identity of her husband is, or something like that. And that just sounds like such an interesting premise and so strange and weird. Like, I didn't know that things like this happened in the past in India. It just sounded very, very intriguing. So yeah, that's why I picked it up. I've heard good things about it as well, so cannot wait to read this one either. The next book that I got is The Home in the World by Rabindranath Tagore. Now, I've been wanting to read Rabindranath Tagore's books for the longest time. I actually bought one which was called Farewell, My Friend, and I started reading it and I couldn't really get into it, but I heard that this book is a lot better than Farewell, My Friend. It's a lot more accessible, so I'm excited to read this one. I also think that the audiobook version of this is available on Storytel if I'm not mistaken, so I might actually like read and listen to the audiobook at the same time, which might make it a bit easier to digest. But anyway, this book basically follows our main character Bimla, who used to live in Parda, and this is in pre-independence India. But her husband basically tells her to come out of Parda and introduces her to like society, and she meets this young man named Sandeep, who is quite entrenched in the nationalist movement that's happening in pre-independence India. And she really gets taken up by this cause, and you know, she's very passionate about this revolutionary nationalist movement that's happening. And basically this leads to like conflict between her home life with her husband and her feeling of passion and her feeling of how she can help her country. And the book kind of follows that conflict, which I think is very interesting to read. I feel like we hear a lot of these like revolutionary stories of pre-independence era where men were fighting for the country. I've not read any in which like a woman is at the forefront. There are not that many stories, I feel, or I haven't read them. So that's why I thought it was really interesting to see like a woman fighting for Indian independence at that time and the nuances that that would bring to the story. So I'm really excited to check this one out and read this as well. And the last book that I got is Gin Patrol on the Purple Line by Deepa Annapara. Now, I've heard such good things about this book. Basically, I think it's set in Delhi, if I'm not mistaken, but it follows like the lives of these 3 kids who are trying to solve the case of these mysterious disappearances that are happening in their neighborhood. So a bunch of children are disappearing from their neighborhood, and these 3 kids kind of get together to solve the crime, or it's something like that. And it just sounds so interesting. I've heard a lot of people compare this to like Harry Potter in terms of like the way these 3 kids get together, the friendship between them. So it just sounds very intriguing, very fun. So yeah, I've been wanting to read this book for the longest time and I should get to it soon. So yeah, those were all the books that I bought over the course of the last few months, and I cannot wait to read them. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a big fat thumbs up. Leave a comment down below letting me know which are some of the new books that you have bought that you cannot wait to start reading. Let me know so I can get more recommendations. And of course, do subscribe to my channel for more book related videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.